What's good, people? This is Olin Yancey, aka Holy Warrior Yancey, and this is Holy Warrior Yancey Productions. Today, I just want to break down cheating. Just want to talk about cheating, go over a few things. But before I do that, let me go to the Word. Okay, I'm going to be reading from Matthew chapter 22, and I'm going to be reading verses 34 to 40. The most important commandment. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had silenced the Sadducees with his reply, they met together to question him again. One of them, an expert in religious law, tried to trap him with this question. Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses? Jesus replied, You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. Amen. Love God first. And love and treat people like you want to be treated. Let's just break that down in one human to another. Let's love one another and treat one another like we want to be loved and treated. So simple. Yet for some reason, most humans can't get it. It's funny. You look at the murderer, you look at the thief, you look at the rapist. The murderer doesn't want to be murdered. The thief doesn't want his goods stolen. The rapist doesn't want to be violated. But yet, they do unto others what they dread to come upon themselves. And it's like that for cheaters. A lot of people out there, cheat. And I'm not knocking people that cheat. I knock the act, I knock the person. There's many reasons why people cheat. But something that I've seen and know all to be true is most people that cheat, they dread being cheated on. And I understand, our human nature. We can get into relationships, we can enter into marriages, and still come across people that we're compatible with. This world is a big place. And if you're in a relationship, it's no doubt that you're going to bump into other people of the opposite sex that you're compatible with. And indeed, variety is the spice of life, but we can't take that view when it comes to marriage or even courtships, We really can't. And of course, just like anything, the new car smell of relationships, it wears out. It's kind of like me, my favorite cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. If I was to eat that every morning for 6 months, or even less than that, I'll be tired of it. And we'll want something else. Our human natures, there's something else. It really is. But either way you look at it, when it comes to cheating's never justified. You either love the person enough to seek counseling, or you respect the person enough and just end the relationship. It's never justified dragging somebody along. It's never justified sleeping with others, then coming back to be with your so-called main squeeze. It's not justified. It's not. And when it comes to cheating, it always started as something small. And I think of how just a little spark of fire can start a forest fire. Just that little spark can set just about the whole forest ablaze. When it comes to cheating, all it takes is a little spark of you entertaining thoughts that that person is attractive, or that person is sexually desirable, or that person, me and them got a whole lot in common. All it takes is just something like that to start an affair. That's all it takes. If you live long enough and, have your fair share of courtships or whatever, you'll come across the scenario of cheating. And if you live long enough, you may see yourself playing both roles, that of the victim and the villain. I kind of went through a whole lot. But what I mean by that is, I was in a relationship where I was cheated on and it devastated me. And for the longest time, I truly believe that people that cheat, that they are cold-hearted monsters. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are. But falling into an affair, it's like, you can almost say that when you're in love with somebody, in your relationship with them, you don't really have the intentions of, I'm going to hurt this person. Things kind of just happen. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that people are totally innocent. But what I'm trying to say is that we really have to consider this thing called our human nature and our sin nature. We're not perfect. But like I said, affairs start out with small things. And I'm going to give some examples from the workplace, because apparently that's where a lot of affairs start. There could be times where you're fighting with your significant other and you go to work downcast. And there's predators that pick up on stuff like that. And eventually they can woo you to get to talking. And once you get to talking about your personal problems, they'll dig in. If I was your man, or if I was your woman, I'll do this, I'll do that. They'll go in for the kill and hit you with those compliments. You'll go out to lunch. They'll maybe talk a little bit longer than you should at the water cooler. And before you'll know it, there's an emotional attachment. You're there long enough, you get a physical, you see the physical and your mind start thinking some things that you shouldn't be thinking. And voila, an affair is going on. But there are many reasons why people cheat. Some people don't have a moral compass. How they're raised, things they seen growing up, and things that are sacred aren't sacred. and they'll look for an excuse to justify having an affair. There are people also that really don't that really underestimate the power of playing with fire. You know, they go ahead and accept, a few flirtful advances or entertain thoughts that are improper towards another person, and one thing leads to another. There's people also that revenge cheat. Being betrayed, it really hurts. It really hurts. And some people think that maybe sleep with somebody else would take the pain away. It really doesn't. If you really love the person you was with, there's no way that sleeping with somebody else will really satisfy you. You probably feel that you got even, but what happened will always be at the back of your mind. One of the sad things about cheating also is when you see it happen in a marriage. And it's funny how, and the Lord allowed me to witness this in a few relationships that I observed. It's funny how Satan will come in and he'll have an outsider, get close to a spouse, and an affair happens, and the affair is discovered, and the marriage just falls apart. And after the marriage falls apart, the device that Satan used to bring about the destruction of the marriage, they're long gone. They came, they did their damage, and they leave. And devastation is left behind. I don't know. Like I said, people cheat for many reasons. Moral compass, lack thereof, uncontrolled sexual urges. I even witnessed just a person that just really didn't like people to dislike them and couldn't say no. I also came across a person that really had no intentions of cheating, but just got caught up, entertaining thoughts, thinking that it was cool to go out on lunch breaks with a coworker, and one thing led to another. My advice, like I said, cheating isn't justified. Either you love somebody enough to seek counseling, or you respect the person enough and just end the relationship. Cheating is a choice. It starts off innocent. You may be innocent. Have no intentions of cheating. Don't think that things will go too far with somebody else other than your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. But it's funny how one thing leads to another. That's why it's so important to have boundaries, and you must enforce those boundaries. You must enforce those boundaries at all costs, to the point where, brother, if a woman's coming at you at your job, let's just say she pinched you in your behind. Let's just say that She's close up on you, rubbing her breasts up on you. She's that close. She's giving you that look. You gotta set her to the side and say, look, you're not disrespecting my wife. You're not disrespecting my marriage. You gotta go. I ain't tolerating it. Same thing for you, ladies. You know when men give you compliments that they shouldn't be giving you, or going a little bit too far, because some men get cocky, some men get bold. You gotta shut that down from jump. You're not going to disrespect my marriage. You're not going to disrespect my husband. You're not going to disrespect me. There ain't no, I'm flattered, but it ain't none of that. Nah, you just got to straight up cut them off. Period. Leave no more room so they can, let it be no more room that they think they can come at you a certain way and disrespect your marriage or your courtship, whatever. You just got to totally just nip it in the bud. I mean, you can't play with this. It's no, I'm flattered. It's no giggling. It's no entertaining. It ain't no, it's okay if I go to lunch with them. It's okay if I tell them my personal, none of that stuff. If you're in a relationship and somebody's coming at you inappropriately, you got to cut that off from Jump Street. Forget about hurting somebody's feelings. You got to stand your ground. Because when it all falls apart, it ain't pretty. And you got to be aggressive to where as though they not going to come at you and disrespect you, your spouse, the person you're courting with. Again, you got to nip it in the bud. You can't play with it. When you play with it, you asking for trouble. Another thing, you got to be careful of lust. Because lust is never fulfilled. Lust turns into darker things. You know, people that are ensnared with lust, it's a tangled web that they're caught up in. Their desires can go from kinky to really, really freaky to one to be peed on, pooped on, when they act rape scenes and do crazy stuff like that. Lust is never satisfied, so you got to keep lust in check. If you really have a problem, you have to go to God and seek deliverance in the name of Jesus with that. Because I've seen lust take people down roads that they never imagined they'd be on. Some real sick stuff. And at the end of the day, the devastation that a lot of people don't see is that fine print when it comes to cheating. How in-laws are angry and are hurt, and how children are hurt, and broken homes, scenarios where you don't know who fathered children. There's all types of mess that cheating brings. The fair seems so good, you know, that forbidden fruit seems so desirable, and sneaking around gives you a high, but they don't talk about the consequences. And 9 times out of 10, you get caught. It could be years down the line. Somebody gonna open up their mouth. You can get fired over stuff like that. You know, that stuff comes onto your job. You know, people fight. You know, gunplay. All types of stuff can happen. So, again, I'm going to leave you with this. Either you love somebody enough to get counseling, or you respect somebody enough to just leave. Never cheat. Cheating is never justified. Never cheat. Never string nobody along. If you're not happy, leave. Leave. Or try to get help. This is Olin Yancey, a.k.a. Holy Warrior Yancey. like my page, subscribe, leave feedback. A brother trying. I got videos on here. Look up Olin Yancey. Look up Holy Word Yancey. You should find me. Take care. God bless.